Richard Boom here. I'm not part of this madness.
Must have been to a higher ground, lifted up to a better.
Greetings, my fellow truth warriors. Today we are going to have an episode styled like the last week's episode, wherein I try to flesh out my ideas as we go along. I think there's a lot of value in that for you as a listener, because you can see how I formulate my ideas and you can see somehow the flaws in my reasoning. Flaws. F-L-A-W-S, flaws. In my idea, not flaws like dental floss, flaws as in errors in my thinking or my reasoning. So you could comment or you could tell me where I went wrong or where I went astray in the comments below. This week's particular disquisition is about language. To be more specific, the language used in the mainstream media and the language used in today's current political climate, which I think borders on insanity. It borders on, for lack of a better word, borders on weirdness or oddness, if not insanity. What do I mean by that, and why is this important? Language is very important because whether we like it or not, language inflicted upon us by the mainstream media and by the political elites defines the reality or how we interpret what is going on in the world. To a certain extent, some people are more affected than others, and to a certain extent, some people can see through this, it's not deception, but manipulation with language. For example, everybody uses this word Nazi. You're a Nazi, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi. They like these words, Nazi and fascist. And it's funny that this word Nazi, fascist, or like Hitler doesn't seem to mean anything when it is being used by certain people. When used by certain people, the word Nazi or fascist or you're like Hitler simply means that you are so evil. To be more specific, your argument is so evil and so reprehensible. It is like the Nazis or it is like Hitler that I don't even understand why you are arguing that, and I cannot rebut that with any logical or rational argument, and therefore you should shut up because it's evil and reprehensible, and making that point is making you look or sound like a Nazi or sound like Hitler. That is what it actually means. And the people who usually use the word, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, it's been so used repeatedly that it loses its original meaning. I bet you that the people that are saying, oh, you're like a Nazi, you're like Hitler, do not even have an idea what the Third Reich is. They don't even know what a Nazi is. And they don't even know where Hitler came from, what Hitler did, or other than, of course, he killed a lot of Jews, or how Hitler rose to power. Even more disturbingly, especially with the rise of the alt-left, not the alt-right, the alt-left of the political spectrum, is the word fascist and Nazi are being used to justify violence against people that disagree with their ideas. And it's funny, not as funny, it's disturbing that the reasoning, it seems, of these people goes something like this. Nazis and fascists are bad and evil people. Punching a Nazi and punching a fascist hurts the Nazi and the fascist. Therefore, if I punch you, you are a Nazi and you are a fascist. And to me, it is disturbing that the reasoning, it seems, is like that. And what is even more disturbing is the mainstream media seems to have no clue, if not turning a blind eye towards the violence that is found in the alt left or the extreme left or whatever you want to call it, that part of the political spectrum. And I find it deeply disturbing that nobody is noticing this use of language to demonize people who does not agree with certain groups of people. And to me, who actually reads history and actually studies history, I find it weird that this is happening. I mean, for example, if you walk in that rally, I bet you none of those people know the history, the particular history, and the particular meaning of the words and the symbology that they are using. For example, if you pull, hey, you, you're a neo-Nazi. Come here. Can you tell me what the particular meaning of that symbol on the flag that you are waving? Well, it's a swastika. Well, yeah, I know it's a swastika, but aside from that, what does it mean? I bet my balls on it that person will not be able to answer your question. And if you go on the other side of the political spectrum and you pull one of these Antifa kids and ask them, what is a fascist? Fascists are, well, evil and bad people. Yeah, I know that they're evil and bad people, but what is a fascist? How do you define a fascist? Well, I bet you this is the kind of reaction or the kind of reply that you are going to get with your question. Because these people, they don't know anything. What is even more disturbing, by the way, what is a white supremacist? What is a white supremacist? Is this a white person who thinks that he is superior because he is white? If so, can we call black people who think that they are better than white people black supremacists? How about the French people who think that their culture and their civilization is better than other cultures and civilization? Could we call them French supremacists? What the hell is a white supremacist? And I've asked this question repeatedly to people, and all they're saying is that, this is an amalgamation of all the ideologies mixed into one. And then if you ask them to break it down, what this white supremacist or white supremacy is, they don't know anything. I'm not saying that there are no people that can be considered or could be labeled as white supremacists, but what I'm trying to argue is that what is the category that makes a person a white supremacist? Of course, the person should be white. Next, the person granted that the term white supremacist, the white supremacist should think that white people are superior than other people. I get that. But that hardly means anything bad or evil. This is like a black person who thinks that he is, or black people are better than the rest, or a French person that thinks their culture is better than other people's culture. So to demonize that term is really weird to me. And it's funny that I heard this argument. A particular person, a particular white person, said that the United States of America was built by white people, or was built or established by white people. And seeing the outrage towards this person, that is racist. That is a racist statement. You are a white supremacy. You're a neo-Nazi. You're a fascist. You're like Hitler. And outrage and this seemingly irrational and highly emotional, highly charged statements toward this particular person and his particular statement is, to me, disturbing, fascinating, and interesting all at the same time, and scary all at the same time. For the reason that people went from A to D without even going through B, C, D, B, A, B, C, D, and E. They just went whoop, racist. And if you think about it, there's nothing racist or bad about what he said because America was really built by white people. The first pioneers, the builders and the pioneers who came to America, of course, granted that there are Indians there, but the people, the settlers and the settlements that later became America is built by white Europeans, white Christian Europeans to be particular. So I don't see why the statement of that person is racist or particularly white supremacist statement. And also, the Constitution was instituted and created and drafted by white men, white Christian English men. So I don't see how people can jump from A to Z just by I just don't know how they got to that point. And I think any talk about racism and Islamic terrorism warrants questioning what the hell is a hate crime? What the hell is hate speech? Can you say that someone saying that I don't know what will constitute a hate crime, but say for example someone says that we should not bring down statues because this is our history, or I am white and therefore I am superior. Can we consider that hate speech? My particular thoughts about this particular topic is that it seems to me that what is being labeled right now as hate speech is any speech that goes against the mainstream narrative or any speech that particular people don't like, especially if this particular speech comes from a certain segment of the political spectrum. In fact, questionable speech or hate, not hate, but speech that is going against the narrative is protected speech. Because can you imagine if someone criticizes a president or a government official and his speech, his particular speech that is not tolerated by certain individuals is not protected under freedom of speech? Can you imagine what those people will do? Let's say, for example, a Republican says that the actions of anti-fascist movement is hateful and violent, and therefore this is not justified because this is crimes against humanity. Can you call that hate speech? And wait, what the hell is a hate crime? Before we even go further, what the hell is a hate crime? Well, the thing is, actually, hate crime is one of my favorite. A hate crime is simply speech or idea plus an actual prosecutable crime. So, for example, if you're saying, oh, you know, I hate black people because I'm a white supremacist and neo-Nazi and blah, 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 blah. Okay, we can consider that hate speech, but can you put the person in jail for talking? I don't think so. Can we fine the person for expressing his idea? I don't think so. But if the person says all those things and then goes bashing heads of black people and black babies on the wall, then we will say that he committed a hate crime because he hated black people and he committed the atrocious act of saying those hateful things against black people and goes on to commit a criminal act that is punishable by law. So the elements there is that a criminal act that is punishable by law and an idea or a speech or an expression of an idea, which is actually speech. The funny thing there is for you to prosecute a hate crime, for you to say that someone has committed a hate crime, you need to establish the fact that this particular person has a particular ideology that constitute hate against a certain minority in order for you to say that the particular criminal action that was committed by this person is hate crime. But what if you cannot prove the ideology or the idea of this person? Are you still going to call it a hate crime? Like for me, this is just all this hula baloo of words is just insanity. Not insanity because it's important, but why can't we just prosecute that person for bashing black people's head on the wall? I would rather prosecute the action than prosecute a specific idea or a specific expression of that person. I mean, if we say that freedom of speech is important, then we should defend that no matter how we don't like or no matter how we hate the particular speech of that person. That's all I'm saying. And while we are in this particular disquisition, or I'm on my particular monologue about this topic, I want to add there is this how people think about feminism and women in general, this issue of women. It's like when you say, I hate feminists or I don't support feminism, they will automatically say, especially women, oh, so you hate women and you don't like women's rights and equality of women and men. No, I said feminism. Not, oh, so you hate that. It's funny because a lot of people, I don't say a lot of people don't think, well, they think, or they think what they're doing passes for thinking. It's not really thinking. They're just swayed by certain ideology and certain beliefs that they did not think about, for lack of better words. Yeah, go ahead, think about. For lack of better word, they don't rationalize, analyze, think about, or dissect what they believed in. It's like they went from A to Z with those statements. To say that someone who doesn't like feminism or someone who hates feminism hates women, it's like a leap in reasoning. It's like you went from statement A, conclusion. That is A to Z. And you did not flesh out in your head what it is. And ask that particular person who said, why do you think someone who doesn't support feminism or someone who hates feminism hates women? How come you think that? And the person might say, oh, because feminism is about women. And you ask them, okay, so what is feminism? You know, you're like Hitler. What a fucking idiot. Where we are right now in our political discourse is just meh. Up becomes down, left becomes right, beautiful becomes ugly. I say that because I read this other article. It's like, I think that was Cosmopolitan magazine. The headline was, why do men like models? Or something like that. I mean, duh. I don't even know what to call this insanity. It's like no one is analyzing the language used. And going back to that radical Islamic terrorism. The left is so afraid to label radical Islamic terrorists, but have no qualms generalizing one action by one particular person to the entire right side of the political spectrum, and extending that to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. That is something I don't understand. What reasoning are they using? What philosophy? I guess when you are a postmodernist, you can just say whatever you want and claim whatever you want. Another thing, we're talking about language and we're talking about accuracy of how people use terms in our political discourse. I find it odd or weird that I guess this goes beyond language, but also it goes to the principles that people had or the principles that people adhere to. Is that in that particular event in Charlottesville, a white supremacist, whatever that is, plowed through the crowd of anti-fascist Antifa and killed one person. Okay, a death is bad, but I don't see why the left can suddenly generalize that. Hear me out first. The left could say, in effect, they're saying one extreme right white supremacist or neo-Nazi plowed his car and killed one person. Therefore, the entire right side of the political spectrum is bad, evil, and violent. Or at least generalizing that evilness, if there's such a word, to the entire right side of the political spectrum. And we are talking about not only of language here, but also of principles or standards by which we conduct things. The same political spectrum or the same side of the political spectrum that generalized that one incident to the entire right side of the political spectrum seems very reluctant to call terrorist attacks done by Muslim extremists as radical Islamic terrorism. When there are, well, at least at the time of this recording, more terrorism or violence done by Muslim radicals para por a, or as compared to the extreme right in the US. So they don't want to say radical Islamic terrorism, but they could easily say and generalize extreme right terrorism spread all over that side of the political spectrum. So I don't get that. I don't get that. And to think that this is happening, I observed that we have a lot of language in the mainstream media or the mainstream narrative that is designed to demonize one group over the other or to put preference over one group over the other. For example, I read this headline of CNN, which was actually changed by CNN after someone ridiculed or criticized or commented on the headline that CNN used. What CNN used in their headline is, oh wait, let me check that. Stand by. All right, there it is. The original headline of CNN, this article, this update by CNN, written by Sarah Ganim and Chris Welsh, they said, "Unmasking the leftist Antifa movement, activists seeking peace through violence." I find that wording somewhat funny, disturbing, and shocking, for lack of better word about that. I don't know how to word outrage, perhaps, because you are mixing violence and peace at the same time. And you're telling me that you are going to achieve peace through violence. And it sounds great. It sounds great. Don't get me wrong, in creative writing and if you're writing a novel, that sounds great. But if you are pushing a political ideology, that kind of terminology is not only dangerous, but it's weird, or it's just and after someone criticized or commented or made fun of that headline, they revised it into unmasking the leftist Antifa movement. So clearly, how certain things are being done in the mainstream media or the mainstream narrative that we are hearing is designed to promote a certain ideology or to promote a certain perspective of the events that is happening. So what is it for you, or what is it for us that only seeks the truth and the analysis, only wants to know what is going on in the world or the political environment that we are in? I guess what I'm trying to get at in this particular monologue, soliloquy, or disquisition, if you're going to comment, is that we need to be sensitive on the language that is being inflicted upon us by the powers that be, or by those who controls the political narrative that we are hearing. Because if we don't analyze this, we will become like most of the people in the world that are swayed by emotions. And I think it was Hitler who said this, or had this insight about crowd psychology, wherein he said that, Achtung! I can't do a Hitler voice. So Hitler said, the masses are feminine and stupid. Only emotion and hatred can keep them under control. And we all know how Hitler had this almost hypnotic control over the German crowds. And if we are not sensitive in the language that is being inflicted upon us, we will be controlled by these people through language and through emotions, and they will manipulate our perception and what we see or how we interpret things based on their own agenda. And before we close, I would like to add that if you are liking this Jordan Peterson style of episode delivery or idea delivery, please comment below and tell me what you think, or if you like me doing this, or if I should just go back to having well-defined show notes before I record or before I talk on the mic. Please comment, put your suggestions and your comments below. And also, please, if you are in YouTube, subscribe to the channel. There are more things that are coming your way. And most especially, please subscribe in vid.me/RichardBoom, because I need 50 followers in VidMe. Thank you, and see you soon. Boom!
You should know a thing about me.